Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. We're going to be doing two things today. We're going to take a look at the new Paramount Plus layout. The UFC, as you probably know, has moved from ESPN over to Paramount Plus, and they seem to have their site up and running. So we'll dig through that a little bit, take a look at kind of what they got going on. And then we will also breeze through and take a look at some matchups that we'd like to see the UFC throw together this year, old 2026. It's shaping up to be a decent year so far. They've already got a pretty stacked card that they're going to start the year off with, UFC 324. And then moving beyond that, there's a couple events that are shaping up well. So we put together some matchups that we'd like to see. I tried to do at least one in every weight class, and a couple that are scheduled to be happening, but that we definitely want to see. So first, I guess we'll start with the Paramount Plus layout. This is the homepage here. Looks pretty sweet. Looks like they've actually put some effort into what they got going on. They got some quick offerings up here, kind of broken down in a couple different sections, like some recent clips, UFC series, which is like the upcoming events here. So I guess it's probably like the numbered events, the embeddeds, and then by the decade, the 2010s, the 2000s. They've got the fight nights in Espanol and in Portuguese, and then the UFC countdowns as well. So that's pretty fucking cool. Oh, yeah, check that out. Mostly recent clips you may also like. So I imagine they're just going to keep adding to that section, or to all the sections, I should say. KO City, UFC 324. Okay, cool. So they're doing it like main event. So they'll have all the fighters or all the fights of the upcoming main events, like all of Paddy Pimblett's fights, all of Justin Gaethje's fights, because they're obviously matched up against each other. The whole section just broke down by champions. So that's pretty cool. You can click on any of these guys, I'm assuming, and catch all their fights. Pretty sweet. I'm impressed. It's nice to see them actually put some effort into what they're offering here. I was never too impressed with the ESPN Plus's layout and kind of, I don't know, it seemed like their streaming always would cut out and I'd have all kinds of issues with it. They got legends. You can click on any of these guys, old Brock Lesnar. See what kind of fights he's got on here. Yeah, Shane Carwin. I think that might have been one of the first fights I ever went anywhere and watched. I went to Dave & Buster's and watched old Brock Lesnar and Shane Carwin. I'm trying to remember. I think any of the ones I would have watched before that were probably at home. I watched Lesnar and Frank Mir. I think that was like one of the very first ones I ever watched, but that was at home with some people. Interesting. Nate Diaz. It's got a legend section. Cool. All right. Seems like it's going to be pretty sweet. Let's explore a little bit more, see what else we got. We got numbered events. Those are our recent ones. I mean, I feel like we've pretty well covered it. Embeddeds. I'm always an embedded fan. I like watching those. Countdown, numbered events in Spanish. Of course, they're going to have them in the other languages. The fight nights. Triumph and Tragedy. Okay, so they got like some storylines going here, I guess. Volk and Taporia. Oh, why do you gotta have Volk on there twice? Come on, man. Don't do the guy dirty. Explore collections. Oh, these are all the Paramount Plus collections. Cool. All right. I'm not mad at it. Paramount Plus got a decent little setup here. So, moving on, I guess we'll go ahead and get into the fights this year that we'd like to see. We'll start with the women's strawweight. First up, we have got the UFC site here. So, women's strawweight just had a bit of a change in hands. Zhang Weili was reigning champ, defended it several times. She vacated the strap and decided to move up to flyweight. And in the interim there, which it wasn't an interim belt, it was actually an official one. But in the meantime, we had Mackenzie Dern took on Vina Jandiroba. And old Mackenzie Dern came out with a unanimous decision. Wasn't exactly a barn burner. It was an okay fight. But like I said, we're going to try to throw together at least one fight in every single weight class. And for this one, what I'd like to see here is I'd like to see Magnum Wiley come back down in weight. She lost to Valentina. Seemed largely like a physical. There was some skill deficits there, but it seemed to, by and large, to be like a... she was playing with a physical deficit here, so I'd like to see her come back down to her rightful weight class, regain the belt, or at least challenge for it against Mackenzie Dern. Stylistically, I think she's probably Probably a little more explosive than Dern. Probably a little more physically gifted, like in the speed and kind of explosivity department. But Dern just has the X factor in the grappling. Her submission ability is always going to be like a point of contention against a lot of these people. It's like, okay, well, she always could just snatch up some kind of submission, some kind of knee bar or freaking triangle choke or RNC or something like that. Wiley's pretty good on the ground. She plays it pretty safe. That short, compact body style is pretty hard to submit anyway. Those limbs can get in there and stay pretty tight. And given that she's physically strong as well, she can explode out of positions and stuff. But I would think Wiley would be able to win a decision out of those two. But that's the matchup we'd like to see at women's strawweight. I want to see Wiley come back down in weight, back to her rightful weight class, try to regain the strap against Mackenzie Dern, right the universe. I did not think Dern was ever going to be champion, and honestly, I don't know that she should be. It's kind of a goofy set of circumstances, but she has the belt all the same, so whatever. Moving on, we're going with another matchup here I'd like to see in that same weight class, and that's Tatiana Suarez, who I didn't realize, I just now see this. Apparently she's scheduled to fight old Loopy. When is this? April. Oh, okay, well, I mean, that is actually a fun matchup. I had in mind Tatiana Suarez against Vina Jandiroba, given that they both kind of coming off of semi-recent title shot shortcomings. Came up a little short in those. So see two chicks with good grappling, different styles. One's wrestling, one's jiu-jitsu. Pretty comparable striking, which is to say not the greatest. I just thought that'd be a fun matchup. So either way, kick those two out of here. Next up, the Bullet Valentina, flyweight champion in our flyweight matchup of 2026 that we'd like to see. Natalia Silva. She's on a, what is it, like oh god, she's got quite a few wins. I was going to say a 5 or 6 fight win streak in the UFC, but I guess it's more than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So a couple off there, but 7 wins in the UFC. Not like blowing chicks away here, but she is doing pretty good work, pretty one-sided decisions, peppering these chicks up, staying on the outside, chipping away at them, in a style that's not terribly dissimilar to Valentina's, minus, I think, the grappling dominance. Valentina likes to get you taken down, work to like a crucifix position or like a dominant side control or maybe even like a half guard, top half guard on you and work some ground and pound. Try to go for some submissions, but she doesn't generally snatch them up too often, or at least of late she hasn't. Yeah, last submission that she's had there is actually a loss to Alexa Grasso, but fun matchup. I'd like to see those two go at it, Valentina and Natalia Silva. I'm not like breaking down the door to see it, but again, one in each weight class. That would be my women's flyweight one. Moving on to men's flyweight, perhaps an obvious one. Another one where I think the title changing hands was kind of a weird circumstance. I'm not going to say bullshit, but it was kind of bullshit. That's my guy, Alexander Pantoja. Recently lost to Joshua Van, and I'd like to see them run it back. I want to see those two go at it again. Pantoja came out, berserker, barrage, landed a couple shots, threw a head kick. Josh Van ate the head kick, caught it there. I think he may have blocked it. I don't remember, but either way, he caught it and kind of pushed off. Pantoja fell backwards, went and planted with that arm, with an arm, and it ended up like, I don't know if it broke or hyperextended or what. I still haven't heard a definite on what happened with that. Elbow gave out on him though. Supposedly he's already back at training and looking good on the road to recovery, but I do think they need to run that back. Pantoja was on a pretty dominant run. A lot of finishes. Looked on I don't want to say on the way to maybe dethroning Demetrius as the GOAT of that division, but certainly seemed like it was the writing was on the wall. It was like, okay, I mean, if he does a couple more of these types of performances, these dominant wins, these shutout champion performances, Mighty Mouse had good performances as well, but a lot of those weren't finishes. A lot of those were close. I don't want to say close decisions, but kind of boring decisions and stuff. I'm a Mighty Mouse fan. I always chalk him up there as one of the GOATs of the whole sport. But Pantoja was making a run for it, so they got to run that one back. If not Pantoja, then I think there's really a couple options, but I think the main one here is Manel Kopp. I'd love to see Manel Kopp and Joshua Van go at it. Two strikers. Not super high volume Manel Kopp, but Joshua Van kind of makes up for it in his volume. That dude just pours it on people, and his offensive style, him coming forward, I think Manel Kopp would have to stay on his bike. He's a good counter striker, so I think he'd be looking to slip and counter. I think he has more power than Joshua Van. I kind of actually think Manel Kopp would maybe win that one. I think he's a little bigger, a little more physically gifted right now. Joshua Van is still coming into his man strength, so to speak. I think they have comparable reach, and given the power advantage, maybe even a speed advantage, I think Manel Kopp potentially shuts Joshua Van out, shuts his lights off. He's been knocked out before by Charles Johnson, my old CJ Energy. Manel Kopp's murdering everybody of late, so I'd really like to see that one this year. If they can't get the Pantoja match scheduled, throw Manel Kopp at him. Next up, we also have another flyweight matchup. We have Steve Erceg, Astro Boy, coming off the decision win against Ode Osborne back in August. I think you give this guy, his opponent here, a little bit of rest, but then you throw him up against the old raw dog, Brandon Royval. He's coming off 2 losses in a row. Decision loss to Joshua Van, where they beat the ever-loving shit out of each other. I think they set some records for most strikes landed and stuff as well. But then KO loss to Manel Kopp. Wasn't completely out, but he was definitely out on his feet. It was a decent stoppage by the ref. There's that whole argument you'd like to see the lights go completely out, but I think some of these guys and some of these stoppages, like, it's clear enough that he's done and that it's going that direction. So save the damage, save some of his brain cells. He was pretty clearly going to be shut out eventually. The lights are going to be shut off. And the shots that he was eating and everything, save him, save the damage. You might as well step in. So I saw some people online who were salty about that stoppage. I thought it was all right. So give Royval another couple months. Let's see him. I think I even wrote on here a month. Yeah, maybe in April. Let's see Royval around April. Give him 4 months off. 2 full months of resting. 3 maybe. And then, you know what? We could even maybe push that back a little bit. Not I'm sitting here saying this out loud. Let's go with May. May or June. Unless Erceg's trying to get in there sooner, which I don't see anything scheduled on here. A lot of times, old Sherdog's pretty good at throwing the scheduled fights up on there. So I think that would work out. I think it'd be a fun matchup. The volume and everything, I would say, go in favor of Royval. The scrambles, pretty comparable. Erceg had some really good scrambles against Pantoja, even it ended up in dominant position once or twice, and then Pantoja would work his way out of it. Royval's got some real good scrambles, man. I just think that's a fun matchup. 2 comparable fighters, 2 guys at pretty close points in their careers as well. So let's see it happen. Next up, we have the women's bantamweight champ, Kayla Harrison, coming off a complete shutout against old Juliana Pena there, who's a pretty good grappler. And for Kayla Harrison to take her down and get the Kimura finish that she did, it was right there at the end of the round. Pena, all she had to do was hold on. It was pretty impressive. Amanda didn't have quite that much of a shutout performance against Pena. If anything, Pena got a performance like that against Amanda Nunes, where she survived the onslaught on the feet, then began to open up. She began to open up as in her own right on the feet. Hurt Amanda, eventually got her down. I think it was with a body lock. Drug her down, got to her back, and got a shitty RNC on her. So all that to say, Kayla Harrison, pretty impressive performance against Juliana Pena to take the belt. Clearly, physically, just a fucking monster. The striking leaves a lot to be desired. The chin is okay, it seems. I haven't seen her get cracked by anybody that throws with the caliber that Amanda Nunes is going to be landing on her if she does land. So that's a big question mark. But either way, I think that is the matchup to make here of 2026, and we have it right around the corner on us. It's 2 weeks away. She is going to be fighting the Lioness, Amanda Nunes, former champ, coming back out of retirement. I would say Kayla's probably going to have the physical advantage, just in sheer strength. Amanda Nunes, maybe a hair more explosive. Kayla just seems like she's kind of like the brute strong, doesn't seem to be particularly explosive, whereas Nunes seems to have a decent amount of fast twitch. Striking, clearly in favor of Amanda Nunes, whereas grappling, I would say the edge there probably goes to Harrison, given the judo background. Nunes is a jiu-jitsu black belt, so you would think her submission defense is there, but given what Pena, I mean, MMA math doesn't always match up, but given what Harrison did to Pena, I don't know what the hell we just did there. Given what Harrison did to Pena and how Pena did Nunes, I would think Harrison have grappling advantage. Maybe a little bit of recency bias, but the activity as well. I gotta go with Kayla Harrison there, unfortunately. I do think she maybe gets the submission win against Amanda, but we only have 2 weeks to wait, so we'll see. Right around the corner. And then we have the men's bantamweight matchup. We have the champ, No Mercy, Petr Yan, recently winning the belt over Merab. And I do think you should probably run that one back. It's a rubber match. Those guys are 1-on-1 against each other. Merab, incredible run. Just insanely dominant against however many fucking dudes in a row. And like Matt Serra always says, you can make the argument both of those losses there are kind of BS. They should be wins, or could at least arguably be wins if you want to make that argument. So Merab coming off an insane run, and again has a win over Petr Yan, which was a pretty one-sided performance there. Petr Yan was able to stuff a lot of the takedowns, but Merab was definitely having his way with him and landing some good shots, only to then come back in the rematch and pretty well have his way with Merab. He stuffed, I think, like all of the takedowns, or maybe like one or two Merab got out of like who knows how many, 20-something shots, I'm sure. Was piecing up Merab, busting him up pretty good. Had a lot of damage on him by the end of the fight. I guess we could zoom in a little bit here so you can see that a little bit better. But yeah, I think, man, how does this one go? Merab's younger, or excuse me, Petr Yan's younger, has less mileage. I would say a pretty clear striking advantage, probably a power advantage in the striking department. Merab maybe has a wrestling advantage. It seemed like he pretty clearly did in the first fight, but then by the second one, starts becoming a bit more competitive in that realm. Petr Yan, if I remember correctly, even got a couple takedowns of his own in that fight. So, man, I don't know. I kind of lean towards Petr Yan in the rematch, given how dominant this most recent fight was between the two of them. A little bit of recency bias there, I'm sure, as well with the Kayla Harrison fight that we were just talking about. But I just think he shored up the holes in his game. I think he actually also underestimated Merab a little bit in that first fight, so perhaps he didn't train as hard as he should have, wasn't quite as prepared as he should have been. And then in the second fight came out, left no stone unturned to say every cliche thing that we possibly could, and kind of beat the brakes off Merab. So I think Merab probably gets it done again, but I do think you got to run that one back. If you don't, we've got a bit of a question mark here. We have old Umar now. I do know that they've got the Davison-Figueiredo matchup here in 2 weeks, but I don't want to say that's a sure thing, but I kind of think it is. I think Umar's pretty well going to go out there and crush Davison, and I think what they're doing is trying to set him up for that potential title shot against Petr Yan now. So if he goes out there and gets a dominant performance, gets a finish against Davison, I could see them skipping the rematch and just throwing Umar in there, letting Merab get some rest, which I think is well-deserved and well-needed at this point. Let him get some rest, do the matchup with Petr Yan and Umar, and then Merab gets the winner of that because he's got to win over both those guys. So got a bit of a trifecta there. I think that'd be really fun. Get those three guys out of the mix. And then you got another matchup at bantamweight. I think Sugar Sean O'Malley, once him and Song Yadong fight, win or lose, I actually think it'd be a fun matchup to finally give the fans what they want, the matchup they've been asking for. We've been asking for Sugar Sean and Corey Sandhagen for quite some time. Two dynamic strikers. Two guys very slick, very fast. They've got a wide array of tools at their disposal. Both of them use spinning kicks, flying knees, good hands. I'm dying over here and burping and fucking coughing, falling apart. I think you got to give us that one. Please give us that one. Now, Sugar Sean against Song Yadong. I don't know if Song goes out there and does a lot of wrestling and shit. I could see Sean maybe struggling a little bit, but given how good his takedown defense is, his scrambles on the ground, so long as Sean stays relatively safe in the striking and Song doesn't catch him with a big shot, I would think Sean would chew him up. Pick him apart on the outside to a win. He needs 2 losses in a row, both to Merab, so at least it was 2 title shots, but the submission loss in the second one definitely looks a little bit worse. get a good dominant performance, win against Song Yadong, and then give us the Sanhagen match. I think we're back on track. We're back on track with old Sugar Sean. Moving on. We have featherweight, right? Yeah. All right. This is one of the ones I was having a bit of a hard time thinking of some good matchups here. Alexander Volkanovski, current champ, recently won his belt back. Decision win over Diego Lopez, April of last year. I shouldn't say recent. It's been almost a year. Took a little bit of time off. He's about to have a rematch against Diego Lopez. Lopez has put together a couple wins in the meantime. Volk, I think he's kind of at the tail end of his career. I literally think we're talking like one or two more fights and he's about done. With a win over Diego Lopez, I think you give him Movsar. This dude has been on a tear for fucking forever. He's 19-0, 31 years old. He's in his prime. Not the most exciting fighter, and he's not the most active fighter. So I get that's probably why they're holding off a little bit on him. But he's beaten pretty much the who's who's, coming off the decision win over a former champ, Aljamain Sterling. Yeah, I just think you got to give it to him. You got to. I think that's what he's holding out for. Volk, if he goes out there and wins against Lopez again, you do the Movsar matchup. I actually thought that's what they were going to do for this one. But either way, you do that matchup. If Volk wins on that one, I think he sails off into the sunset with the belt, retires as champ. I'm just fine with it. Do that one. Or let's say Volk loses, Diego wins the belt. You still got to do that one because there's a bit of history there. Diego has a very close fight with Movsar Evloev, where if I remember right, he had a good knee bar set up that he was yanking on pretty good there, and Movsar managed to hold it out. But that was a short notice fight, and given how competitive it was and how much of a monster Diego has been since then, I think you got to run that one back. I think you got to. So that's our featherweight matchup for 2026. One of those two against Movsar, depending on how this title shot goes. Here, not in 2 weeks, that 24th card, but the week after that. We got two back-to-back, 324, 325, right there with each other. Next up, lightweight. We've got a bit of a kerfuffle, as the kids would say. A bit of a mix-up here. So we had Ilya Topuria, who just moved up, gained the belt over Charles Oliveira, knockout win last June. He's got some personal issues going on, some stuff with his old lady and his kids and all this mix-up going on, so he has stepped away for a bit. I saw one paper say that he had vacated, and then I saw another thing saying that he didn't technically vacate. He just said he's stepping away for a bit, so they're going to do an interim belt. That's in 2 weekends. It's the 24th. You got Patty and Justin Gaethje fighting for the interim belt, so once Ilya comes back, I would imagine you have to give him the shot against the winner. But people are saying that he might not be back till 2026. So I feel like the guy on the line here, the guy who's been a bit of a shitbird and he's kind of had some mix-ups, but I do think he's kind of deserved it. You got to give the shot to Arman Tsarukyan. He's a prick. I would imagine he's probably pretty hard to work with behind the scenes, but he is a good fighter. He's dominated pretty much everybody he's fought. The Charles Oliveira was a split decision, but it was Charles Oliveira, former champ, destroyed Dan Hooker, destroyed Benny, destroyed Joaquin Silva. You got to do it, man. Give him the shot. I'd like to see him and Patty. That'd be probably the most exciting matchup there. Him and Ilya would be a fantastic matchup once Ilya gets back. So we got some options. Patty, Gaethje. Winner of that first should get Ilya. If Ilya's out, then give it to Arman. But I do think another fun matchup at lightweight, depending on how this fight with old Holloway goes, because Holloway's matched up against Oliveira. I would like to see Dan Hooker and Max Holloway. I've wanted this fight for a minute now. Max Holloway has done a couple little blips up at lightweight. It's two guys who are willing to stand there and trade, get after it in the pocket. Kind of similar striking styles with like the volume and everything. So I think these two would match up very well. Both of them are not like crazy power, so I think give these guys 5 rounds. You're going to get 5 rounds of them beating the shit out of each other. I would give it to Holloway. I think he's a little bit slick, more slick with the boxing. And at lightweight, he can put on some size and some power. Maybe, I don't want to say put Hangman away because Hooker's got a really good chin. But if anybody has the volume to do it, the speed, and like I said, put on a little bit of power at lightweight, I could see Holloway doing it. And then kind of an in-betweener here In between lightweight moving into welterweight, another matchup that we probably need in 2026, one that we will potentially be getting. Iron Mike Chandler, think he finally deserves a shot against Conor McGregor, if he's actually coming back. I don't know. Seems like he's getting his act together. Seems like he's on the straight and narrow again. Now, what weight they're going to do it at, I don't know. That's why I kind of threw it in between. You would think 170, but there's been talks of Conor coming back down to 55 or maybe even doing a catch weight at 65, which I think would actually be that'd be a good one there. You get enough weight that Chandler's not cutting an insane amount and also not giving up so much that he's going to be undersized against Conor. And it's an extra 5 pounds where Conor kind of needs to dial it in. It's like a real test. Like, hey, how serious are you, guy? Are you serious enough to come in even 5 less than welterweight? So I would love to see that right there in between 165. Save it for the White House. If Conor comes in and looks remotely anything like he has in the past, I would think Conor cracks Chandler and puts him away pretty quick. Chandler would be wise to come out and try and wrestle, but I don't think he's going to be able to keep Conor down. Chandler gets big, explosive takedowns, but he seems to struggle with keeping guys there. And Conor's pretty good on the ground, pretty good with the scrambles. I think that's a bit an underrated aspect of his game. So I think he could work back to his feet, where the gas tank lies, where the durability lies, given his partying and everything else. I don't know. But I think that's a fight for Conor to win there. And if we don't get that one, we have another match up there we could throw. A rubber match. We have Nate Diaz. There's been rumors, some rumblings, that Nate might come back to the UFC for one more shot. What better way to do it? White House card. If Chandler, which I don't know why Chandler would be out, but if for some reason Chandler can't fight, do Conor, Nate Diaz 3. They're 1-1 against each other. You could do it at 170. They both talked about fighting each other again, doing the trilogy. Nate has the finish. Conor has the decision. Both them dudes are past their prime. It just makes sense. Just makes sense. I mean, the Chandler fight makes sense as well, but I'd love to see that one. So give us one of those in 2026, please. And then at welterweight 2026, we have the newly crowned champ, Islam Makhachev, taking out Jack Della Maddalena, making runs at the GOAT conversation here. Kind of see one of two matchups for him. The one I would prefer is Shavkat, 19-0 on an absolute tear. Had a pretty serious injury that's kept him out since December of 24 when he had a decision win over Ian Gary. But so assuming he's back on the mend, I'd like to see Shavkat and Islam. I do think Islam would probably win that one. I think he's the better grappler. Shavkat's strong. He's explosive. I just don't technical grappling edge. I don't know if there's anybody who's really going to shut out Islam in that department. Those guys, the Dagestani boys, are just too damn good with the chain wrestling and the submission department. Shavkat also got exposed. I don't want to say exposed, but he was in a bit of trouble against Ian Gary, who was able to get his back and threaten with the RNC. So I would think Islam would win, but give me that matchup for 2026. I think that would really cement Islam's welterweight legacy as well. But assuming we can't get that one, then I think Ian Gary's probably done enough to be the backup there. He's coming off 2 wins in a row, Carlos Prates, and a decision win over the former champ Bilal Muhammad, and a pretty one-sided ass whooping. So if Shavkat's still injured, sick, whatever, I think Ian, I don't know, man. He might have enough to stay safe on the ground against Islam in the jiu-jitsu department. He's pretty slick on the ground. He kind of surprises me a little bit in that regard. Striking department, I would say Ian Gary might actually have the edge there. He does kind of stays on his bike, peppers away, stabbing straights at Islam, stays on the outside where he's going to have time to try and stuff the shots of Islam and the chain wrestling. It's an interesting matchup. I do think Islam wins that one. I think he wins the Shavkat one as well. Either way, I'd like to see it. So give me that one for welterweight 2026. Moving on to middleweight, this was one of the ones I was having a little bit of a hard time. Hamzat, after the boring performance against Strickus, it was dominant, but it was boring. I assume you got to give him Nazardine Imavov, but that's not really the exciting matchup I care about in that weight class. I would like to see DDP, the fucking whirlwind of chaos that is DDP, against a kind of similar guy who's a whirlwind of chaos, and Renee Ritter. Both these dudes kind of all over the place, kind of sloppy in the striking. Reiner Derrida has a jiu-jitsu background. Drickus has a judo background, if I recall correctly. But both of them pretty good grapplers, pretty crazy in the striking. All offense, not much in the defense department, either of them. I would think Drickus would probably win this one, given his, his ability to just stay in there. Reiner seems to fade just horribly. So I would think, assuming that DDP could kind of weather the early storm with RDR. Plus, I mean, it's the battle of the three initials there, RDR versus DDP. Assuming old Drickus can kind of weather the early storm, I would think he would turn it back in his favor and probably get the finish. But that is just an excellent matchup. As I see here, RDR is scheduled to fight Kyle Baraujo, but either way, win or lose, I still would like to see him against DDP. That's in March. Do we have DDP? Yeah, we don't even have any DDP against anybody. That was August. You would think they would already have him scheduled for somebody. So maybe they're waiting for something for old DDP. I'm not sure. Maybe he just wanted some time off, but I would like that matchup this year. Next up, light heavyweight, Poatan, the champ. I'm assuming he's going to be either moving up or holding on to the belt and kind of waiting to see what happens, but matchups I would like to see is the name of the game here. I would personally like to see old Yuri Prohaska against Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev coming off the TKO loss to Poatan in the debatable first fight with Poatan when he won the belt. Went out there, got his ass beat first round. Not the most active guy, so I don't know. Yuri seems to like to be in there pretty regularly, so you might not see this one happen, unfortunately, but I would love to see it. I think Yuri, the aggressive striking, the unconventional striking is going to give Ankalaev fits. Ankalaev doesn't seem to do well with the crazy pressure. Assuming he can stay on the outside and pepper away at Yuri, he might do all right, but that just does not seem to work against Yuri, man. He's too good at closing the gap and getting in there and landing and mixing it up and turning it into a damn brawl. So I would think Yuri would get this one done, but fun matchup. If Poatan moves up and does the heavyweight bout, I think you got to do this one for the interim strap. Given both guys have challenged for the belt multiple times. Ankalaev held the belt. Yuri, did he have it from? Yeah, he had it against Glover. He won it against Glover for a minute. So fun matchup there at light heavyweight. Assuming you can't do that one, or assuming that Poatan does not move up, I don't mind the idea of a Poatan-Ankalaev rubber match here. But that's not like the most exciting thing on planet Earth. I would personally like to see Jamal Hill and Jan Blachowicz. This is a different one, kind of a side matchup here that we're doing on the side. A little bit of a history going on. These two have been chirping at each other, mostly Jan at Jamal Hill, but basically Jamal Hill got into it with Joanna Jędrzejczyk at some event. They were going back and forth, and this video came out of Jamal Hill telling, I guess Joanna was going at Jamal Hill's girl, and he told told Joanna that if she attacked Jamal's girl, he'd knock her the fuck out and all this other stuff. And Jan kind of inserted himself and was chirping at him online. So I think they need to settle this between these two guys. Jamal Hill's got a lot less mileage on him. I think he's faster. I just don't think he takes it as serious as old Jan Blachowicz. I kind of think Jan Blachowicz would get that one done. But last but not least, we have heavyweight. I would like to see, I mean, this is a pretty obvious one. You got to run back Cyril Gane, Tom Aspinall. Kind of a bullshit fight. Tom got a lot of flack, undeservedly so, in my mind. Got poked in the eye not once but twice. I think it actually was almost 3 of them. But either way, Cyril Gane about gouged his fucking eyes out back in October. Ended in a no contest. Tom Aspinall couldn't continue. Now has to have surgery on his eyes. Cyril has a bit of a history of this. Otherwise, I don't think people would be quite so emotionally charged about this outcome. You got to run it back. You got to be immediately ready to take a point. Honestly, with the no contest, I kind of feel like it should have been a disqualification win for Tom Aspinall because it wasn't like it was multiple times. It wasn't just once, multiple times, eye gouge, whatever. To save me going on and on about this, run this fight back. this fight doesn't come together for some reason, you could do Poatan against Tom Aspinall at the White House. That'd be a fun matchup. But the way it's looking, Tom Aspinall with his eye surgery, he might be out for a minute. So I think in the meantime, you do Cyril Gane against Poatan. You could do that one at the White House. You could do that as an interim belt in the meantime while Tom Aspinall's away. However you want to do it, but it is a fun striker matchup. I don't know that you have to worry too much about either of these guys shooting on each other. Cyril Gane does like to mix it up occasionally and go for like the leg locks and shit. Some part of me thinks that that's exactly what he would do, just to mix it up and throw everybody off, is he would go out there and shoot, get the big explosive double leg against Poatan, take him down, and then do like some ground and pound and shit. But I just don't know how well he's going to be able to hold down Alex Pereira and keep him there. Pereira works with Glover, works with some pretty good guys, so I could see even if Cyril Gane does do that, I don't know how well he's going to keep him there. Poatan gets back to his feet. I think Gane might be a little bit faster. He's good at staying on the outside. Raw, just explosive power probably goes in favor of Poatan, but Gane might have that power. He just doesn't throw that way. He seems to throw for speed. So, fun matchup. I kind of think Gane would win that one for some reason, man. Poatan's chin's just not like super amazing these days. Seems like he's getting hurt a little bit. I could see him trying to close the distance and Gane catching him on the counter, surprising him with the speed. You know, he's circling on the outside, and then he changes direction, and comes in real quick with the shot, lands on Poatan, and shuts his lights out. But either way, fun matchup for heavyweight 2026. We'd like to see Aspinall versus Gane, run it back. If that doesn't work out, Gane versus Poatan versus Aspinall. Do some kind of mix-up in there. Keep John Jones out of it either way. That's all I want. That is it. It's our fun matchups for 2026. We took a little bit of a look at the old Paramount Plus layout. I'm impressed. Looks pretty decent. We'll see. I hope their streaming service ends up being a little bit better than ESPN Plus's, a little more reliable, and hopefully it doesn't cut out on us. But those follow, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know any matchups that you'd like to see for 2026, and we'll see you guys here in about a week or so for our first card breakdown of the year. Peace out.